Since the beginning of the TOMY Sonic the Hedgehog line, one complaint regarding their figures has remained consistent. Their figures have good sculpts, usually quality paint jobs, but for many, the articulation has been severely lacking. Coming off the heels of the Jazzwares line, a line that focused on making its figures as posable as possible, the limited articulation of the TOMY figures was off-putting to many. I personally don't mind it that much. These are small, cheap figures, they don't really need tons of articulation. And that's probably not what TOMY was going for either. The figures, especially in the Collector series, are more geared towards being displayed rather than played with. And with Sonic's design, less articulation means a cleaner sculpt, meaning the figures look more accurate. However, the articulation on TOMY's figures was pretty lacking. The 3-inch classic figures were a step in the right direction, but then the modern figures went back to less articulation, and some of them are even posed. It's been a few years since the last highly articulated Sonic figure, and fans wanted something new and impressive. With that said, given their track record, the announcement of this TOMY Ultimate Sonic figure came as a surprise to many. This guy was touted to be just what collectors have wanted for years. He would be of a good size, come with a base and tons of accessories, and, most importantly, he would have a huge range of articulation. This all sounded too good to be true, especially at the figure's $30 price point. Could TOMY really pull off such an ambitious figure? Only time would tell. And in early March 2018, he was released. So far, it seems like he's exclusive to GameStops in the US, though I'm sure he'll make his way to other stores eventually. I pre-ordered mine the day they went up online, and he finally arrived. So, let's see if this so-called Ultimate Sonic figure lives up to the hype. Let's start by taking a look at the packaging the figure comes in. It's in the same dark blue pixel-styled box that all of the Collector Series TOMY Sonic products have come in. The box features a window display at the front, top, and partially to the side, giving you a great look at everything inside. Some things of note here on the front of the box is the classic Sonic the Hedgehog logo here, the text that reads Collector Edition. Also, it says that this figure is recommended to people ages 8 and up, as opposed to 4 and up, which is what most TOMY Sonic products have. The sides and back of the box have some nice 16-bit Sonic sprites, which is a great touch. You can also see this blurb about Sonic, which is on many of TOMY's releases. This time, however, it's typed out in many languages, making this figure as universal as possible. Scattered around the box are the usual TOMY legal information, and the majority of that can be found on the bottom of the box. The packaging for the figure does its job really well. It's very well stylized, and the 16-bit art makes it stand out more than the usual TOMY Sonic figure. I also want to commend the way Sonic and all of the accessories are positioned in the box. Sonic is in a running pose, with a bunch of the accessories around him. It all looks very appealing, and I'm sure this packaging will do a great job enticing people to purchase this figure. To open the box, all you need to do is cut some of the tape and then open these flaps. I chose to do so at the bottom to keep it looking nice at the top. Opening the bottom flap reveals this, an instruction booklet to go with the figure. The booklet showcases all of the accessories that come with the figure, as well as some basic instructions on how to take the figure apart. More on this later. There's also some example poses you can pull off with the figure, including this interesting one down here, which seems to show an early prototype of the figure. The eyes on this one are a lot bigger than on the released figure. Also, that green hill background in the box, that's an actual separate backdrop you can remove from the box. It's not that big, but definitely could be used on display. Anyway, let's not waste any more time on the packaging and get into the figure itself. Here's the figure itself. Standing at around 6 inches tall, Sonic is looking just about perfect. His sculpt looks fantastic, his paint job is surprisingly well done, and his articulation is exactly what we've wanted. So, let's talk about it. When this figure was first announced, I had a few worries. This had the potential to be one of the greatest Sonic figures of all time, but there were a few things they needed to get past in order for that to happen, and that all came down to the quality control. This is something that has plagued many previous Sonic figures. Say a figure's concept itself was very cool, but the execution often ruined the whole figure. Maybe the paint was off, the joints were loose, or flat out didn't work, but I can confidently say you don't have to worry about any of that with this figure. From what I've seen, the quality control on this guy is just about as perfect as it could be. I have yet to hear of anyone receiving a figure with any huge issues, and that's great. Sure, mine has a few paint errors, but they're small and don't take a lot away from the figure. Especially considering the price point, it's not like this figure would have ever been perfect. As for the sculpt of the figure, it's basically perfect. Just like TOMY's smaller 3-inch classic Sonic figure, the sculpt isn't really based off of the current classic Sonic design used in games like Generations, but is instead more akin to the true classic Sonic style used in games like Mania, which I believe looks a lot better, which is why when we compare the figure to Jazzwares figures, the overall look of the figure is just more appealing. You know, it's funny, when this 5-inch classic Sonic from Jazzwares came out years ago, I was blown away. And to be fair, it's a nice figure, though the joints on it were pretty loose, and quite a few of them had horrendous quality control. But comparing it to the Ultimate figure, yeah. Yikes. This new guy just blows it out of the water. The Ultimate figure sculpt not only looks great, but the paint is very nice as well. The colors on him are very vibrant and really pop, which again was an issue on the 5-inch Jazzwares figure. There are a few slight paint mishaps here and there, but few really get in the way of displaying the figure. And of course it's possible these aren't common issues. The only one that bothers me at all is this little speck on this alternate eyepiece for Sonic, but even that isn't that big of an issue to me. As for the figure's articulation, here's where it gets good. Sonic's head can not only just move side to side, but can also move up, down, and all around. Sonic's arms can also move all around, and his elbows can bend and swivel. His hands can also swivel and can be positioned in any way you want. These also apply to his legs and shoes. Probably the coolest point of articulation on this guy is his stomach cut. You can swivel it, similarly to the Jazzwares figures, but unlike those, the joint is sculpted under Sonic's stomach circle, meaning it doesn't break the sculpt when you use it, allowing for it to be a lot more useful with posing, and also making the poses look more natural. All of this articulation allows for a near endless amount of posing options. This guy is just really fun to mess around with. It's fun trying to recreate iconic Sonic poses, most of which he can pull off. He can't pull off every pose imaginable, but if you try, he can do almost anything. While the base figure looks great and can pose very well on its own, the real draw to this figure, and what really justifies its price and place as a collector's figure, are the accessories included with it. In a very similar vein to Nendoroid figures, Sonic comes with alternate faces, split as both eyes and muzzles, as well as alternate hands. Along with that, he comes with a ring, a rod to hold the ring, a rod to hold Sonic, as well as a chili dog. Yes, a chili dog. I gotta hand it to Tomy. They really gave us the chili dog merchandise representation we deserved. Anyway, the faces Sonic comes with goes as follows. We have the standard look that the figure comes boxed with. This includes front-facing eyes and a standard smile. The other options include a set of eyes looking to both sides, as well as a closed set of eyes. As for extra muzzles, he has an angry/sad face, an opened mouth face, and a huge laughing face. Obviously, these two are meant to be used to mimic the laughing Sonic art, which is the same art this plush from their Collector Series line was based off of. My only complaint about any of these is the open mouth expression. Usually when classic Sonic has his mouth open like this, it's shown to be centered, but here it's to the side, making it only look good from certain angles. As for hands, Sonic comes with 2 fists, 2 finger-waving hands, 2 opened hands, and 2 hands sculpted to hold the chili dog or ring. All of these allow for this figure to have one of the widest ranges of pose and expression options of any Sonic figure to date. These combinations really make the possibilities endless with this guy. It's also pretty easy to swap the parts out too. For his face, I'd recommend sliding his muzzle out first, and then taking his eyes out, and put them back in that same order. Swapping hands is even easier, as all you need to do is just pop them out and put the new hands in, though it does require a little bit of pressure to get them in all the way. But you may be wondering, all of these accessories are great and all, but where will I put them when I'm not using them? Well, Tomy thought of that. Remember that base Sonic comes with? You can open it, which reveals that you can store all of the accessories in it. This is an incredibly useful feature and is greatly appreciated. Let's talk about this base. It's inspired by Green Hill, and just like the figure, is very vibrant and bright, with the different shades of green and brown looking very nice together. The overhang of grass uses a pixelated style, but is captured really well. Also, the base has 4 peg holes, of which you can peg Sonic or the ring into any of them. The stand for Sonic is a basic clear rod, again very similar to those found with Nendoroids, and it simply pegs into Sonic's back and into the base. The stand seems to be quite strong and can support the figure's weight very well, meaning jumping and running poses are absolutely possible. Now, let's see. The base, the alternate expressions, the item accessories, this figure is clearly inspired by Nendoroids. So, let's compare it to the actual Sonic Nendoroid, which was released in 2011. Well, for one thing, the figure is much bigger than the Nendoroid, and can also pose much easier given the elbow and knee joints. However, the Nendoroid has a much sleeker look because of that, given the lack of visible joints. Nendoroid Sonic in short is a much cleaner looking sculpt than the Ultimate figure, but it also lacks in the accuracy and posability of the Ultimate ultimate figure, so I guess it really just depends what you want more out of a figure. They did it! They actually did it. The same company that made Oil Tails managed to make what I now see as one of the best Sonic figures ever made. Seriously, this guy has it all. If you're a collector of Sonic stuff, or just a fan of the character and have the money to spend, I cannot recommend this guy enough. He's exactly what we've wanted out of a collector's Sonic figure for years. I thought the Nendoroid was great, but in my opinion, this destroys that. I just wish we could get more characters in this style. Obviously, a modern Sonic with this level of articulation would be great, but I have a feeling we'd get more classic characters if more were to be made. A Knuckles in this style would be excellent, and a Metal Sonic would be just fantastic. They could even go all out and give other characters different bases like Sonic's. Tails could have a chemical plant base, Metal Sonic could have Stardust Speedway, stuff like that. And hey, with this being such a collector's item, I'm surprised we aren't getting a Super Sonic variant exclusive to a convention or something. I would have gone out of my way to make sure I could get that. That would have been incredible. But if this guy is all we're getting in this ultimate figure line, then that's okay. On his own, this is the best Sonic figure to come out in years, and I really hope more companies look at this guy for inspiration in the future. We've gotten low-level articulated, small Sonic figures for years now, but I think this should be looked at as the new standard of Sonic figures. Obviously, there's still a place for the smaller figures, and I still highly respect the Tomy and Jazzwares 3-inch lines, but this ultimate figure is really what Sonic deserves. It's unfortunate that Sonic isn't all that popular in Japan, because that means we most likely will never see the likes of an SH Figuarts or Figma Sonic, which is a huge shame. It's a surprise we even got the Nendoroid, but American toy companies are more than capable of making a Sonic figure that would rival what those would be like, and this figure proves that. If you've been unsatisfied with recent Sonic figures released, I highly recommend picking this one up. You will not be disappointed.